So however, looked at experiment in a different way. You're looking at democracies under threat, and goes beyond India. You're looking at the fact that diversity, that countries in the West, are becoming more diverse, and it's moving from a homogeneous to, a more, pluralistic. Might be distinct, but how do you look at experiment of democracy then?
Yeah, I mean, I think every democracy in the world is an experiment in two senses. The first is that it is still a relatively new form of government. It's wonderful to be here in India and to be here in Jaipur. The disadvantage is that it's in the middle of my term. So yesterday I had to go to my hotel room and teach in the middle of the night. And what I was teaching was some of the founding texts of American democracy, the Federalist Papers and other writings. And when they are trying to establish democracy at the end of the 18th century, we forget this now, every human attempt at self-government in history had failed. Right? Ancient Athens had failed. The city-states of medieval Italy had failed. Various experiments of democracy around the world had failed. And so they were embarking on an experiment of whether or not we can actually design the kinds of institutions that are going to sustain our ability to govern ourselves collectively. And in particular, whether we're going to be able to stop these societies from polarizing into factions that hate each other so much that they're willing to tear down these democratic institutions because me winning is more important than us together sustaining our democratic system. So that was the first sense in which we tend to talk about an experiment in democracy. And of course, India, as you were saying, was a remarkable experiment when the democracy was founded, because it was the biggest democracy in the world, as it remains, because it was a population that at the time was in its majority non-literate, and many people thought that Indian democracy would fail, that this experiment couldn't possibly work. And you're right that it's been a remarkable success story that India has sustained its democracy despite these initially adverse circumstances for so long. But there's also a second sense in which democracies are a great experiment.